Dexter interacts with a lot of people at Miami Metro. We see him talk to Batista, Masuka, LaGuerta, Quinn, and many more. But the character that stands out the most for fans is James Doakes. Being a prominent character in Season 1 and especially Season 2, we see Doakes spiral into an unhealthy obsession with Dexter. In this video, I'm going to explain why. In my opinion, Doakes was obsessed for three main reasons. 1. Doakes had no life outside of work. When looking at the side characters, they have a personal life. Batista, for example, has to look after his daughter. Masuka in his spare time dabbles in debauchery, but Doakes doesn't do any of that. This is clear when in Season 1, Deborah joins Doakes' family for dinner. Doakes is visibly uncomfortable and wants to leave early. Even before entering the house, Doakes formulates an exit strategy to ensure they don't stay too long. And when seeing the interactions at the dinner table, it's clear he's not even remotely close with his family. We also see Doakes having no personal life through his constant surveillance of Dexter in Season 2. He spends countless hours tailing Dexter after work, well into the night. He follows Dexter everywhere, at the bowling alley, at Narcotics Anonymous, and even looks into his financial transactions.
But in 10 years, you've never rented a single title.
Doakes' loneliness is even seen in the way he dresses. He always wore corporate clothing, which represented how he remained professional but distant with his coworkers. He was never relaxed and let anybody into his personal life for an extended period of time. 2. Doakes can relate to Dexter on some level. In Season 2, Miami Metro also investigates the demise of a woman, Alicia Barnes. Believing the perpetrator might be a special operations agent, Doakes decides to check in on Curtis Barnes, the woman's widower. In his exchange with Barnes, we get a glimpse into Doakes' personal life. He states how his previous marriage failed because he was afraid of unaliving his wife.
I left her.
Why was that?
Because I was afraid if I did not kill her.
It's clear through this confession and his interaction with others that Doakes' temper and personality are the reasons he is unable to form sustainable, long-term relationships. In that example, the only difference between Doakes and Dexter was that Doakes had self-control. Curtis eventually admits to the crime, and Doakes is forced to unalive him when he draws his weapon. 3. Doakes' ego is too big to let it go. Doakes tries to uncover Dexter's past by investigating the shipping yard case, but Camilla refuses to give him the files. To get Doakes off his back, Dexter sabotages him by making him intimidate an innocent suspect. Upon discovering he was set up, Doakes confronts Dexter. In the private lab room, he headbutts Doakes. When Dexter leaves, Doakes assaults him in front of everyone, ruining his reputation. LaGuerta then suspends him from the police force. Afterward, we see LaGuerta help him find a new job. She's well connected and arranges a meeting between Doakes and a friend she knows at Stillwater Security, a government contracting company that'll pay 6 figures. Here, Doakes could of course corrected. He could have let go of his suspicions, have that meeting with government contractors, and had a well-paying 6-figure job. But his ego couldn't handle the idea of letting Dexter go. Because before the meeting could take place, Doakes is questioned by Lundy, as some of the Bay Harbor victims were cases investigated by Doakes. Realizing the Bay Harbor victims walked away due to the blood tests, Doakes concludes that Dexter is heavily involved. This is the point of no return. He misses the meeting LaGuerta set up for him, breaks into Dexter's apartment, and discovers his hidden collection of blood slides. But Doakes' erratic behavior and his involvement in many of the Bay Harbor victim cases lead Lundy and Matthews to believe that Doakes is the Bay Harbor unaliver.
Our primary suspect is someone you know well. Sergeant James Doakes.
Quick sidebar. So another storyline that happened in Season 2 was Dexter unaliving the person who dispatched his mother, Santos Jimenez. So when Dexter goes back to the cabin to eliminate the evidence in Naples, he's held at gunpoint by Doakes, who tracked him down with a GPS in Dexter's boat. Doakes forces Dexter to handcuff himself and walk toward him, but Dexter retaliates. In the scuffle, Dexter gets hit in the knee. They fall into the water, and Dexter uses the handcuffs to knock Doakes unconscious. Doakes later wakes up inside a cage inside the cabin, and Dexter locks the door behind him. Here, while Doakes is caged, the conversation he has with Dexter provide a lot of insight. At first, Dexter claims that Doakes knew Dexter's real identity because he's an unaliver just like him, but Doakes argues there's a clear difference in what they do. However, Doakes doesn't outright deny that Dexter's arguments don't have any merit, and instead gives him an ultimatum: either exterminate him or set him free.
Either kill me or set me free. What's it gonna be?
Eventually, Dexter makes it abundantly clear that Doakes was obsessed because he has no personal life.
If you had a personal life, you might not have made me your obsession, and we wouldn't be here right now.
Compare this to Joseph Quinn, who we see later in the show. He also becomes suspicious of Dexter, but after his relationship develops with Deborah, he begins to tell Stan Liddy to stop investigating him. Lila, who is Dexter's romantic interest, finds Doakes caged inside and learns that Dexter is the Bay Harbor unaliver. She decides to protect Dexter and turns on a flame before releasing gas from propane tanks. Doakes, unable to escape, perishes when the cabin explodes. Doakes' obsession with Dexter ultimately resulted in his demise. I'd even argue that Doakes' character is tragic. Despite his aggressive behavior, he was a lonely man who ultimately had a decent moral compass, and the way he perished was brutal too. Personally, I think Doakes deep down knew that he was related to Dexter on some level, but his hard exterior shell prevented him from ever showing it. He was a great character in Dexter, and it sucks that he was taken away so early on in the show. That's all I have to say. Take care.